Recently, I've been asked to make a Lissandra guide because I've been playing Lissandra for a really long time. People ask me for tips, and I decided to just do it since it's spring break, so not much else to do, This is my account that I've been playing on recently. It's a Diamond 4 Lissandra main, 57 games, 65% win rate, so I am successful with Lissandra. In the past, I've peaked Master Tier, but not been able to sustain it. I usually stay around Diamond 2, Diamond 3 to Diamond 1, around that area, which is still pretty solid for a Lissandra main, since, as you guys all know, Lissandra isn't exactly the greatest champion at the moment. But anyways, I'm just going to start off this with talking about runes. So, normally this is my regular rune set. I usually go electrocute. I always go electrocute, let's just put it that way. I always go electrocute. With cheap shot, eyeball collection, ravenous hunter. The reason why I do this is because I play Lissandra as a burst mage. I honestly hate when people say like, "Oh, Lissandra is supposed to be a like utility mage who just goes around and fights for ages, like throwing out Qs." I strongly disagree with that. I think that at least in her current state, she's much better used as a burst mage. Because just like if you get even a tiny bit fed or a tiny bit strong off CS, you can legitimately one-shot like 3 squishies in a team fight. And I don't think that a utility mage Lissandra would be nearly as useful as that. So these are my standard. Electrocute just for the burst, just like because in lane you can auto Q often to get an electrocute proc. It's a really good poke. Kind of similar to why I took Thunderlords back when that was a thing. Cheap shot because obviously you CC with almost every ability except for your E. And in addition, you can also auto attack on top of CCing, and your auto attacks will do extra 2 damage as well. And so this is really good for trades in lane, and just in general, just because you can use it so often. And what else is there? Like Taste of Blood. It's like not really that good. Sudden impact, I guess you could use that with E, but I feel like it's not really needed. I feel like this is much better. Eyeball collection, I just like the extra damage because again I play really bursty. I prefer having as much damage as I possibly can, and I often get assists and kills, so it's a good way to stack. These ones, I guess in higher elo, these ones are probably better overall just for the impact that they have on the map. But, I'm a greedy solo queue player, so I take eyeball collection. Ravenous Hunter, honestly, I feel like this is the best. You can also take this for the Hourglass CDR, but I feel like it's not really necessary since you won't be using Hourglass, like, off cooldown. At least I don't. There's some instances where I'm like, oh, I have 2 seconds in Hourglass, I would have lived, goddamn. But, like, but I feel like this overall is just way more helpful. Especially since even though, like, after you burst people down in the beginning of your combo, afterwards you're still going to want to try to heal up with your Q, just, like, kiting out. So I feel like this is really good. And this, just, like, not really necessary. Movement speed on Lissandra in general just isn't really that necessary. I mean, like, obviously it is, but it isn't like playing Brand or, like, playing Echo or something, where movement speed's really important. Like, this is definitely the best one in my opinion. Secondary tree, however, it does vary. I usually take Resolve as of recently because of the bone plating. Chrysalis, Second Wind, either of them are good, depending on your playstyle. I like taking Chrysalis just to survive laning phase. It just feels more impactful than having Second Wind because, like, the HP bonus makes it more intimidating for them to try to all-in you, which is kind of a mind game, but it works a lot of the time. So I usually go bone plating, Chrysalis just for the defensive, or I go sorcery. And with sorcery, I used to go ultimate hat and gathering storm, but I've come to realize that ultimate hat isn't entirely necessary for Lissandra. It is nice to have your ult up all the time, but you usually won't be using it off cooldown because a lot of the ult comes from like flashing in and then ulting. And a lot of the time you just don't have those openings like every 40 seconds or whatever this will bring you to by the end of your build. So I've been recently taking Transcendence and Gathering Storm just for like the late game assurance. A lot of Lissandra games that I win come from like winning at 40 minutes because Lissandra really does shine in like the mid late game. Not like super late, but like mid late. Like that's when Lissandra becomes really powerful. And Scorch is also a decent option, and water walking. Pretty much all of these can vary just based on your preference, but I just prefer the assurance for late game. Here, celerity, again, movement speed isn't exactly necessary on Lissandra. Absolute focus, I guess you could take this, but like a lot of the time I'm going in, I'm actually like half HP, and it's like to catch people off guard, because if you're half HP they don't expect you to engage, right? So this wouldn't actually be really helpful for a lot of my playstyle. Transcendence, again, is probably the best here, because you are building CDR, and if for some reason you don't get to the cap, this will get you to the cap, pretty much. So yeah, I usually go Transcendence and Gathering Storm. And another alternate, if you go a non-mana item build, like if you go Hex Tech, whatever the fuck it's called, whatever the dash thing is, you can go Mana Flow Band into either Gathering Storm or Transcendence. Probably Transcendence, honestly, because you'll be getting a little bit less CDR. So I'll go into the builds afterwards, but this is just only if you go the non-mana build, because this new Mana Flow Band actually works really well with it. It's late game, it's actually really rare to go after you go this Mana Band with the no mana build. The only really downside of it is early game you kind of run fast, but that can always be worked around by going teleport and, you know, just like preserving your mana with passive. I'm gonna switch to here just to have a more realistic sense in my gameplay. I'm gonna go through the builds now. So usually on Lissandra, I always start doing this standard items, right? And then on my first back, I usually back whenever I can get Lost Chapter, and then get boots somewhere along the way, and then upgrade to Ludens Echo. And Ludens Echo is just to help me burst, right? In theory, GLP would also be a good option, but I've come to find that it's just too weak at the moment, like honestly. And unless they buff it, or unless they change Lissandra's passive to like work with CC targets getting more damage or whatever they're planning, I would still go Ludens over GLP. There are certain situations where I feel like GLP may be better, like versus Malzahar, just to like pop the shield before going in. But besides that, I usually would advise going Ludens first. And I will go over the other build later. This is just my standard. And after that, I usually go Morello Mana. I don't know how the fuck to say that, but whatever. This item, because it just gives really good pen. It's really good for bursting out. Same reason why you would go pen on like Xerath or something. Just like really good for just chunking people out. Then I usually go Sorcerer's Boots. This is somewhat situational. You can also go like Mercury Treads or Ninja Tabbies based on the situation, but I usually find Sorcerer Boots to be better out of all those. Next is almost entirely situational, and this is also situational. Morello Monicon is my most common, but it's also situational in the fact where you can go Zhonya's if you're against an AD or a really strong like burst threat like Fizz. Usually go Hourglass second or even first. Alternate route, if you go it first, is to just go Lost Chapter, Boots into Zhonya's. But that's extremely rare. I almost always go Ludens first before any of this. And let's say I go this Hourglass build, because I kind of alternate. So half my builds I usually go Hourglass second, or half builds I go Morello second. And then from there, it's almost always situational. So if I start from this route, I usually go Morellos. If they have a lot of like MR, go Void Staff. And then if not, if they have a lot of tankiness but not a lot of MR, like HP builders, like Galio. Actually, no, that's not true. Not Galio. Terrible example, but you know what I mean. Just go this, because Leander's does work really well with your just your kit in general. Because now it burns enemies based if they're movement impaired, and as you know, Lissandra's lots of movement impair abilities, so this just works with it naturally. And again, if they don't have any MR, you would skip Void Staff. Oh, let me just move. You would skip Void Staff and go into probably Decap, just for the burst. Where's Decap? There we go. So this is a solid final build, and this is likely going to be replaced with this solid final build here. I'm just going to go in the middle lane so I don't have to get AFK penalty. Another alternative is going full burst, and here you do the same thing. Start here, start boots, go ludens, you go morellos 100% of the time this time, pen, and then you go straight death cap. And this usually is only good if you're extremely ahead and you don't really have any threat of being bursted down. Like, for example, if you're burst a Victor early game or something and you're beating him, don't go this versus Victor if you're behind. Do not. Only do this if you're versus something that won't like one-shot you and you can one-shot them. And then beyond that is also situational. I usually go void stuff because they usually start building MR and fear. Then you could go anything else. Like, even this is okay. But Spellbinder I usually get at the end of the game. Sell for boots, like if necessary. I don't usually build this, honestly. Even Banshees isn't bad. Like if you're versus a like Zeroth or something, you just don't want to get caught by an E randomly and die. Playing aggressive, Banshees is fine. Lots of versatility with Lissandra. There's a lot of different builds you can do that work. So this is the non-mana build. So I usually go, oh, I don't start boots, I'm fucking stupid. I usually go this. Get the standard build, go back. I'll have this in inventory, of course. Get this. Oh no, wait. Don't get that. You get this on your first back. And then once you go back in lane, you lane, right? Then you come back, you buy boost, and you buy this first item. And this allows you to gank lanes easier. I don't usually go this build too often. I usually only go this build versus like 80. Like if I'm versus a Zed or Yasuo, this is actually a pretty decent build because you're gonna be able to proc this Hextech Revolver in lane more often. Then if you're playing versus like a Zeroth or something, you won't be able to take advantage of this item in lane. And it's just good for roaming. And I usually like roaming versus 80 champions because they can't follow us up as well. And if they do, then you could probably just kill them. Let's be real. And then after this, since I usually only go this versus 88 champions, go Zanya's pretty solid. If they're all AD, half the time I go Ninja Tabbies, half the time I just still go Sorks just because the damage is really nice. From here, it's again situational. You could go the pen, even though usually I don't go Morello build when I go Hextech. I usually go straight into Void if they have a lot of MR, Leanders if they have a lot of HP. Banshee is probably not, since they probably won't have any APs if I'm going this build at all. And Death Cap probably would be a similar one. So a solid build at the end would be like this, maybe. Just going Hextech into Zanya's into situational with either Ninja Tabbies or Sork boots. So for leveling, I max Q into maxing W, maxing E, maxing R whenever, of course. And I usually start Q into E and then QW. Sometimes I get W second, get W third if I'm versus Yasuo, or even get a second if I'm versus Yasuo or Zed or any kind of melee. Echo, another example. But I usually get W fourth versus like regular mages. And then of course getting this. So Q, E for safety. The reason why you go E second is just because you get cheesed, like Shaco, Twitch especially. You definitely want to go E second, because when I first played Lissandra, I always went W second, and there were multiple occasions where I just got cheesed by the jungler. I had to force flash because they just came before I got level 3, and it just really pissed me off. And honestly, you don't really lose out on much if you just go this second. Like, there isn't really much you lose out of it. It's just really good safety. And again, get this fourth or third depending on the situation, or even second again if you're versus Yasuo. That is an exception. If you're versus Yasuo or Echo, good to get W second just so they can't walk all over you. And yeah, that's about it. So for a basic combo in lane, I usually, like during trades, I just auto Q and then auto attack them again, proc my Thunderlords, and then get the auto attack bonus from Cheap Shot. Let's pretend the dummy's right here, right? So a good way to do this is just like queuing over here. You can also do this and just like walk up and auto like that. Q, auto, sidestep, auto. Another way in lane Like if they for some reason overextend or they use a major cooldown ability, like if Victor uses his E or something on a minion wave, I would E in, auto attack, go behind him like that. This is a really good opening because if he wastes his spells like that, it's really good to just go in and poke him out because he can't. Like the most he'll do is W you or Q you, and you just out damage him by far. So again, Victor uses E like right here, goes across. I immediately auto attack Q into W, and of course you can do that faster, right? Like that, you know. That's just standard like in lane combo. Okay, let's say this dummy does not have any escape abilities. His flash is down. He's like maybe 3/4, half HP. Uses his escape. You E in, W, QR. And you can also do that a little bit faster. I was kind of just showing the basics. W, QR. Also kind of lagging, if you can see, but that's basically the best combo you can do right there. And also, even a more efficient combo than that would be to Q first, then W, then do that, and then wait for the Q to come up, then ult. That's probably the absolute maximum damage you can come out with. If you're in a situation where you can get ulted immediately, like if you're versus Malzahar who can just point and click ult on you, you would just go this, instant ult. Don't waste your time queuing, it's not worth it. Because if you're just trying to do a quick engage, like for example, say I'm trying to, if it's like an intense team fight, I'm going around like this, like, oh shit, we have to go in, and then I go in right here, go like that, and then Q first, that one little bit of hesitation there, I could have been ulted by Malzahar, I could have died, right? So, if you're versus something like Malzahar, you're versus Lulu, anything that could point and click CC you, just go in immediately and don't Q. It's not worth it. If you just do this, it's extremely rare that they'll react in time. I just wanted to highlight this little clip here, just to kind of show like using your ult without using Q before, because like there are some situations where it's way better to do that. So this isn't where I use it way later. So he also gets caught, right? I see an opening right here. You see this enormous clump right here? I have my E up, I have my W up in a few seconds, and we have follow up. So I know this is a really good engage if I can pull it off. So I E in, and I go in, right? But I get instantly stunned because I'm versus good players, right? This isn't some low elo game where you'll just be able to freely walk around and just like ult for free. This person knew that I was going to go in and stunned immediately, so I can't do anything at this point. So right here, I have two options. I can greed, try to use my W and my Q before I ult, or I can just use my ult. And in this situation, 100% of the time you just use your ult, because you do not want to greed for damage here. Especially with your team being able to follow up. Like, it's a little bit of a different story if you're alone here, and like the only way you can kill them is if you use all of your spells at once, and like otherwise you would just die for free, right? Like, that's the only situation where you would want to try to greed for these spells, but since I have backup, I just want to live. Like, my only objective here is to survive this burst, so I ult immediately, right? And this gives my team plenty of time to go in and deal damage, right? And I survive. And then, like, I'm not gonna play this whole clip because it's kind of lost really like But like, overall, we ended up winning the fight. I think Yi died, but we killed Jax, and then we killed Darius on his TP. So this was overall successful, and the only reason why it was because I didn't greed for the Q. When I say always Q before ult, again, there's always the exception of, are you going to die before you can get the Q off, or are you going to get CC'd before you can get the Q off? And in that situation, I was going to die before I got the Q off, so I ulted ahead of time, right? So a basic combo with Lissandra would go like something like this. You go in, W, Q ult immediately. And of course you would do this faster, so that was just an example. So this is kind of more real time. Do it about that fast. This is really good. You can also flash and do this, right? Like, you can E over here, go like that. There I didn't use my Q because, like, usually if you're flashing in like that, you're going to want to use your abilities immediately. But even if you do have time to use your abilities, then you just do like that. So here I'm just going to show a basic clip of like a combo, right? Just like a basic combo with ult. Here, the fight's about to start. I stop some Xerath ult. I try to keep burst just open. I don't want to get too close because I'm scared of Xerath bursting me. Then I EN, WM, Q ult. just gives it extra damage. See, like if I just ulted, I would have only done about this much damage. If I Q'd, it did like 2 times that damage, right? And then my Q comes up the second I go out of ult. Also ignore the music. That's just like that's just what I was listening to when I was playing this game. This is a good example of a flash combo. We're just fighting here. Work engages. I initiate my E because I can't get in range of Q, right? Like if you can't get in range of Q, don't bother trying to Q before your E. E in, immediately flash after my E into a Q ult on the Xerath. The reason why I ult myself here rather than Xerath is because I know he has cleanse. As you could see, he thought I would ult him, so he immediately cleanse after. It's just not worth your time. If you're gonna, you might as well just ult yourself if they have cleanse. And I know he didn't have flash either, so I know he would be able to stay in the field. And this also just like protects me from any like backlash damage from turret or from another person. Let's watch that again. Real time. I E in, immediately flash W, Q ult. All of them die. Really good combo. In lane, if you are just doing a poke, you always want to see if you can hit your E first. That's why I'm kind of going behind them and then using my abilities, because then that would guarantee my E would hit them, right? Because if I'm really far away from them, go like this, your combo would have to change a little bit. You have to go like, kind of go like that. But if you go behind them, you have the opening to like ult yourself instead, which is really useful. Because it also heals you and it just avoids any kind of retaliation, like reaction damage. Like if, for example, if I go in like this, Victor's gonna be like, oh shit, and then he's gonna like use his abilities super fast if he's good, right? But if I use my ult, I negate a lot of that. Now let's say an enemy is running away, right? So you have 2 options. You can either W in, or E in, W, and then Q, and then just like do damage, waiting for them to flash or whatever. And then once they flash, say they flash over here, immediately ult, because their spells are not down, now you're able to ult them. Or if you know they'll get away with the flash and you can't reach with your ult, right? Then you E in, immediately ult. The only time you immediately ult is if you need to catch someone out immediately. Like if you know they'll react and flash, like the second you E in, you ult immediately. So like say this guy is like an ADC or something and he has flash and he knows that I'll one-shot him, right? So he's gonna flash the second I E in. So ult immediately. If he flashes, the ult follows him over here. So let's say that he flashes this ult, right? I ult, he flashes, then I flash, and then get him over here. And this is pretty easy to predict, because if you're good versus good players, 100% of the time they're going to do this. Like, if they see you E in, the second you E in, they flash, and then you flash after them. Remember, E behind, W, Q, standard combo. For ult, E behind, Q, Q ult. And the reason why you Q before is for maximum damage, and then once you're out of ult, it lasts about 2.5 seconds. Your Q will be up already because it'll be on about 2.5 to 2 second cooldown. So you'll be able to optimize the maximum amount of times you can Q here. If you want a really high amount and you're safe to just walk up, see if I'm just like chasing someone right here, but you're in range of Q, you Q, E, wait for W, wait for Q, then ult. This is only if they don't have flash. If they do have flash, then you would be ulting them. So I go in, EQ, ult, see the chain there. Give them a little bit of time to flash. This is what I see a lot of Lissandra players doing. They just wait too long. They just like go too fast, right? They go like this. Oh no, I gotta do it immediately, right before they can flash. No, you want them to flash. Unless they can flash to safety with like a shield or something, you want them to flash, because that just wastes their sums for free and you still kill them, right? So you go in like this. See this little opening I give them right here? The little opening, they can waste their flash and they still die. It's just like a little tip and trick that people don't usually do. This here's a good example of using just like your ability to force flashes, right? So here, ignore this chat. I was trolling because I was lagging. You know, I wasn't actually saying to open. So here, I know my jungler's coming, right? He pings it. I E behind him. W, Q. Wait for him to see, like, notice how my W is down now. Now I know 100% he's gonna flash after he sees in. So I ult him right when I think he's gonna flash, and he flashes. See, like it's pretty obvious he's gonna flash once Zen got an E range. So what I could have done, right? Like what most players would have done is just E in, W, Q, and then ult immediately, right? Just because like you want to CC them quickly. But what this would have done is that it gives Ziggs an opening, because if Xin E's in and for some reason Ziggs gets out with a flash after the CC duration's done, he might live. Like what if the jungler's right here or something, right? But what I did was make sure that he has time to flash and then ult after his flash. So then his flash is basically negated. The distance he went is the same distance Xin will be able to catch up to him plus more because of this. So waiting on my ult there, not only did it force the flash, it also is a safer move. Yeah, it's just a secret way to just force sums with Lissandra. You just gotta give a little bit of opening between your W and ult CC, allow them to flash, and waste your sum. Now I just want to show some E blast cone mechanics. You don't use these too often, but I use it every so often. Like if I'm escaping this direction, have the E here, auto right before, and you go over. Now let's do an E trick. So if you're in base, it goes to 20 minutes. I'm not going to speed up the clock, it's going to take way too long. But basically you would be in the fountain, you'd run up here, you'd E over, go back to the fountain, and then E again. And then here you would have your homegaurd, you would go straight mid, you would about have your homegaurd up to here. So that's just like the maximum amount of distance you can get from base using your E. Here's a good example of how to kind of sneak a Lissandra engage. With Lissandra, a lot of the time your E is pretty obvious, right? When you just E in randomly, like the enemy team's gonna know you're either going in or you're just bullshitting, right? So you would need to work around your Q to use your E. And if you Q right before your E, it kind of creates the illusion that the E isn't as threatening to the enemy. So a good example of it is here. I'm just throwing out Qs, right? I throw out a Q, immediately E. And what this does is that he doesn't expect it. He thinks this projectile just in his eyes, and by the way, he has flash, just heads up. So he couldn't flash out of this. But he thinks that, like, right after I Q, he sees the Q, and he doesn't like register that this E is coming out, right? Because he could flash right here. He sees my E coming, and he doesn't flash at all. And I just kill him instantly. So always use your Q before you E. It's just like a really good illusion trick, especially in minion waves. It's like kind of like a mind game. And I don't know how it works, but like when I play versus Lissandra, like some people do this to me, and it actually like gets me pretty good. So let's say an enemy is chasing me, right? Just in theory, an enemy is chasing me. I'm running away, and I'm high enough HP to do this. I walk away, E forward, go back, and stun him and go back here. So what this does is it basically just like it gets free damage on him, and it also just makes him harder to chase you, right? Because if you're doing this, he's gonna be stunned for 2 seconds, and you're gonna be all the way over here. So it's just like almost impossible for them to chase from here. And this is really good for like extended chases. Like for example, if I actually am like getting chased all the way from here, like going over this wall, like doing something like this is really useful. Cause like just go like that. Flash over the wall, say he comes again, like, where he's like, back here again, I go do it again, ult him. Of course I can't flash there, but I'm just like, trying to show the possibilities of here, like, you can easily do this while running away, you just have to get used to it. Another trick, again, just like, you can actually kill people while running away. Like if you're strong enough and the enemy chasing you is squishy enough, you can completely catch them off guard and just do like a funny trick. Like of course you could just be boring and just go like this, just like you're running away. Oh no! Oh wait, I can just one shot you and just go like that. But if you can just like one shot them without needing to do that, you can just go like this, walk back, go like that, get 3 spells off, and then just like kill them while you run away. And this is completely possible late game, like. Versus squishy target again, like that. Flash for the W. Like, you can just style on them like that. That's why I love this champion, because there's so many ways to style on people with your E. Also a really just underrated mechanic in general. Because a lot of people just don't take advantage of the fact that you can use spells while Eing away. And you can just get so much free damage and free, like, getaway potential with it. This is why I play Lissandra as a burst mage, because, like, if you get to this point where you're so fed, and this can happen pretty easily if you're good at Lissandra, like, you can get to the point where you literally just go like this and just, like, one-shot people for free. And your ult's, like, 50-second cooldown because you have good CDR. Like, they literally can't do anything here, right? Like, Lulu just dies for free with shield on her. This is why burst Lissandra is so nice, because it's just so easy to just one-shot people. Again, here's another example of just like completely bursting out someone. Waste their ult, and then you just ult them and they die. Like, what? Like, in what situation is it better to go like a low damage build on Lissandra? Like, you just one-shot people. Like, even if I wasn't this fed, like, I have like 2.3k gold. Like, that's basically the equivalent to like 5+ or more of my kills. Like, I could be like 6-2 and still just one-shot them there. And I was overkilling them. Like, if you saw there, she had like, like, what does she have? She had like 200 HP after like my ult and my Q. Like, you overkill people at this point. Like, it's insane. Here's just a really good late game catch on Ziggs, right? Because I know that from previous that Ziggs didn't have flash, right? So I knew he wouldn't be able to get away from this. I pinged that I'm going in, like, previously. So they kind of know what my intentions are. I immediately flash on him and insta-kill him. And I know Ziggs is a huge target, because Ziggs is about as fed as I am at this point in the game. And killing Ziggs is enormous for our team, because we're able to just like take over the game from here. They have no wave clear, Varus can't walk up. So killing Ziggs here is extremely important, and it's definitely worth the flash. So I recommend just like in late game, like extreme late game, if you're going a bursty Lissandra build. So you can see here I went the bursty build, hard bursty. I went ludens, death cap, morellos. It's like really standard bursty build. I can take advantage of this kind of thing. Like, even though he has 2k HP, I know he has no MR, I can just blow him up, right? And it's completely worth it to do so at this point in the game. See, he just dies instantly and I can't do anything. Like, no one takes any recoil damage at all. So it's just straight up 4v5 right now. And the only thing we used was my flash and ult. It's completely worth it. And you can see if we go further, we took inhib, we got pressure on mid, like it was just a huge play. So don't be scared to do those kind of plays late game. Like, if you can execute it correctly and you know your damage output, definitely go for those plays. If you go for the carry that does all the damage to the enemy team, kill them. Even if for some reason I died there, it would be completely worth it. Because I know Ziggs is way more worth than I am. Because we have a Jinx, a gank, plank. We have a lot of different backup damage if I die. Ziggs is almost their entire damage. Because all they have was like Lissandra. I think they have a tank top, I'm not entirely sure. Like, the only threat on their team would be, like, Varus, right? Because Ziggs would be dead. So, definitely worth it in the situation to do that. This is just a clip I wanted to highlight, because it shows how, like, weaving autos in between gets you some extra damage. Like, it doesn't actually make much of a difference here, I just wanted to show it. So, like, see how I Q here? He's slowed, so then I have cheep shot on, I auto attack, and see that true damage? If you weave auto attacks between here, you can get a lot of extra damage. Like, say I get 3 auto attacks just by chasing them with Qs. That's extra 60 damage flat because of true. Then here I just ult him because I know he's slowed, and I could just finish him off here. I just ult him too. Notice how when I ult him directly, I auto before queuing, because that's just again getting the maximum damage output. And I had time to spare here because if like for some reason there's another person coming or something from the left, I would just like immediately ult Q and then run away. But since I knew that there's no one around here, I'm just free to ult and then like do whatever I want, because I know he doesn't have cleanse. I can just take my time, do as much damage as possible. This is a good example of a gank route with Lissandra. So with Lissandra, you probably already know Lissandra's extremely good with just like roaming, getting good picks on bot lane or top lane. Here I'd recognize that top lane is really low and I can just walk up for a gank here. So this is a really good spot to put your E. So a lot of players would walk around here, E over this direction, but I know I can just like walk here, right? Because this would get me to the same place pretty much faster. And also just in case, like what if there's a ward here, right? Then Jack's gonna be, oh shit, he's gonna E over the wall and he might like get away. But if you loop around this direction, he like almost 100% of the time can't see you here, right? So you always go to this little corner here rather than here, because this might be warded and this almost 100% of the time isn't. So I just E over here, get a simple kill off. Notice how I Q before I ulted just to get the maximum amount of damage as always. And then I W, Q him for the chain CC. Give him a little bit of time to jump, but you know. Here's just a solid play of me getting away with low HP. And this is where self-ult really comes in handy. A lot of people, like new Lissandra players, they pretty much only ult the enemy, right? They don't take advantage of self-ult. But self-ult is extremely powerful. You should be using it most of the time, right? So at least in here, lands a... Does he land a Q? No, I dodge it. But see right here? What I could do is just ult him straight up and then use my combo and hope he dies. But that's extremely risky, right? Because like, what if he lives with 200 HP and I can't really do anything, right? He can like, if he has flash, he can flash auto E me, I die. He can just like use his W and just walk up to me and kill me probably. Like, it's just extremely risky for me to just like ult him here. So what I do is I lock him in place with W, right? Let's redo that. So he ward jumps in, misses Q. Then I lock him up with W. And now I know that I can hit my ult for free. Here, I do not need to ult him at all. Like, there's no reason to. Because I know he uses W here. He can't get away. The only way he would get away is with flash, right? And, of course, I don't know if he has flash, but I feel like it's still worth it to do this. Because I know my E is coming up soon. So I would be able to chase him even if he flashes. So I lock him in place, get my Q a damage out before ulting, as always. Because it's always beneficial to do this no matter what. So I Q ult, get the damage. And like, you can see he's running away, right? Like, he thinks that he might live just like getting away from here. But I know I still have my E, so I can just chase him, right? Nice kill. So again, self ult extremely powerful. And also, the reason why I self ult here is because of the heal, right? Because like, say if I ulted him and he lives, he just kills me, right? But if I ult myself, I heal almost all my HP, right? Like, look, I went from 200 HP to 800. More, 900. I went from 200 HP to 900. Now, even if he wanted to kill me out of my ult, he can't, right? Because if I ult him and he gets this low, like, he would be about the same HP, right? So if I ult him, he gets about the same HP. Once like he gets out of the CC lock, he can just like auto attack and E me and I die because I'll be 200 HP. But he knows that now I'm 900 HP and he's 200. He can't do anything. He has to run 100%. And he can't run because he already ward jump and likely already flashed since he didn't seem to flash here at all. So yeah, that's just demonstrating why self ult is very important. I got a comment here about someone saying the biggest problem I'm having with Lissandra is handling the laning phase after the first 3 or 4 levels, and that the early levels he's able to poke and do damage, but he just doesn't do well afterwards. And personally, I already commented that that isn't really the case with me. The reason being is that versus better players, I don't know who he's playing against, but it's just really easy to abuse Lissandra early because her base damage on Q ever since the big nerf is just so minuscule. Like, if you can see it like in this gameplay, like I can't even do it. Like, if I walk up and try to Q him, there's not really any point because he's just gonna Q me immediately because his Q range is longer than mine. So like, I could walk up here, try to Q him and trade, but like, it's just like better for me to try to dodge instead. And this guy just happens to be really good. Like, he's just completely destroying me, and I can't do anything because my range is so short. Which is why I was kind of saying that like, early levels for Lissandra is like really annoying for me because like, if the player is good, they can completely take advantage of the fact that you can't do anything, especially at level 2. Like, I don't have all 3 of my abilities. Even level 4, usually when I get my full abilities, like, there's nothing I can do at that point. Like, the only time I can really do anything is get level 6 and hope for a jungler gank, especially versus a champion like Xerath. Like, I can't really walk up and poke at all, you know? So usually what I do is I play passively. Unless I'm versus like a Fizz or something, I play very passively in lane. As you can see, I was just playing super back. Like, I'm not even trying to like walk up and Q this too much. I'm just trying to stay pretty passive overall. Wait for it to crash into my turret. I'm really just trying to build up for my item, because once I get Lost Chapter, then I'll be really good. Because once I get Lost Chapter, I'm free to poke a lot more. That's another reason why I'm playing passive, is because I can't poke that much, right? Because my Q costs so much mana, it chugs like this much of my mana bar, right? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I have to be so preservative with my Qs that I can't even like try to spam it at all, like a Syndra would or something. Like, I have to play really passive, just try to dodge this guy's stuff, because for some reason he's able to spam it and I'm not, you know? That's a little bit of salt coming from me, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Lissandra just has to play back at this situation. And then once I get my item... Oh, there's a bad example, because I actually accidentally bought the wrong item in this game. I accidentally bought Seekers, but you should be going Lost Chapter. And then once you get Lost Chapter, it shouldn't be that hard from there. Like, you're able to sustain a lot more in lane. You don't have to back nearly as often, especially if you get like a pot. Poke means a lot less to you. You can also call for a jungler. You have huge pressure with your ult because you can literally just E in and ult him, and then he has to like either flash away or cleanse or barrier. And if you have a jungler with you, it's almost 100% of the time as a kill. Like, that's what I tell a lot of people. Like, a lot of people who don't know how Lissandra works, I just tell them literally just like the second I get 6, gank my lane. Like 100% he's gonna die unless he went cleanse or like something like that. Like 100% of the time he's gonna die because I just ult in. I mean, I E in, I ult, and then I chain CC, and then my jungler just like follows up and he just dies for free. Like, if you're in a game in like solo queue, just always tell your jungler, like, come when I'm level 6, come when I'm level 6, because you will get free kills, and it's worth like just a little bit of typing in chat, because a lot of the time they just don't realize how easy it is to gank Lissandra. Like, that's just the reality of it. So I don't know, honestly, I don't know what your problem is. You're not able to meaningfully poke. Maybe you're going... Yeah, maybe you're going a wrong build. Or not really wrong. I wouldn't say wrong build. Maybe you're just going a different build than me. Like, maybe you're just going the Hex Tech dash, whatever. I still don't know what that thing's called, dude. Maybe you're going the no mana item build, but like, you shouldn't be having a problem emptying your mana pool at all. And like, once you get lost chapter, like, I completely understand if you're like level 3 to 4 and you're emptying a mana pool. Like, everyone has to go through that with Lissandra because her mana costs are just ridiculous. And like, your passive has like an 18-second cooldown. Like, you know what I mean? So I'd understand if this is referring to like the first 4 to 3 levels, because that is very true. And because of that, you have to play very passive and just wait for your lost chapter. But after your lost chapter, I don't really understand how you could be emptying your mana pool that easily, unless you're actually just using your Q off cooldown, which you shouldn't be doing. Because you still like will run eventually, it's just way harder to. And you should still be somewhat conservative with your Qs. Use your autos to farm a lot of the time. And here I feel like you're just scared, honestly. Like, if you go a bursty build, a bursty rune set, you shouldn't have to just roam bot and top all the time. Like, the only time where I really feel this is when I go like a Hex Tech build and all I have is like roaming power with my dash and I just can't burst people in time. That's when I feel this as well, and that's when you should be roaming. If you go a Hex Tech build, you should be roaming a lot because you have a dash and you should take advantage of it. But if you don't like that at all, like if you just don't like the idea that you can't really lane well with those items, and you feel like you always have to roam, which by the way isn't that big of a deal because roaming is really powerful. If you just don't like that kind of play style, I would just go my build with ludens, honestly, and I feel like you would have a lot more success because with ludens you are able to fight your own in lane for sure, especially versus like other squishy mages. Maybe not versus like something like Galio or something, but if you're versus like a Ziggs, you can literally just E in like later in the game and just like win a trade if you're good enough, you know? Again, not entirely sure what you mean by this because I'm kind of flipped in my own playstyle, but yeah, that's probably the best I can do with that. So thank you for watching, guys. I know that this isn't the greatest guide in the world because I'm kind of sick, so I'm kind of nasally and it's hard for me to talk for a long period of time with my throat hurting. But if there's anything you guys want me to make a video on, I'll be glad to make like little short videos of little tips people ask for. Go in the comments, ask for it. Go on Reddit, ask for it because I'm probably going to post it there. Yeah, I'm willing to really make a video on anything. I just sometimes off the top of my head can't think of topics that would be useful, you know what I mean? So please, if you want more tips, if you have something you think that I missed, please comment it and I will make a video for it.